So I'm going to do a quick Q&A answer here. And Mike Harper, you asked, does voting play a role in obscuring the primitivism and violence in politics? And that's kind of a softball for me if you know my work, because that's one of my main principles that I'm always trying to indicate to people, is that when you vote, it creates a kind of a mob mentality whereby you can kind of obscure your role in engaging in violence. So if you go into a secret ballot box, okay, no one sees what you do. It's illegal for you to take a photo of your voting ballot, and so you can do whatever you want in the secrecy of darkness, hire whoever you want, vote for whatever amendment that's going to, you know, criminalize marijuana or criminalize this new whatever, some new regulation in your state. Whatever it takes, you can do that without having to be responsible for who you're hiring. So let me ask you a question. If you hired somebody to do a job for you, say be your sales representative, and in the interview process they say, if someone doesn't pay on time or doesn't, you know, provide a service, I will use violence. I'll break their legs to get them to comply. Or I'll put a gun to them and make them do it. Would you be responsible for that violence if you hired that person, they went out and broke someone's legs, and then you get a call from the guy that's hurting and he's like, hey, what happened here? Your guy that's representing your company just assaulted me. And you say, I'm not responsible for that. I didn't do it. No, actually you would be liable, because he said, your representative that you were going to consider for the job, said he would use violence, he would initiate aggression against a nonviolent person to get them to comply to what they wanted. So that's what you're doing when you vote. If someone says either implicitly or explicitly that they're going to keep nonviolent people in cages for drugs, speech crimes like the transgender pronoun law in Canada that was recently passed, or whether it's even economic regulations, it's illegal for you to use a soda size in New York City. Any type of nonviolent behavior, if you hire somebody to use deadly force to enforce nonviolent vices, then you are morally responsible for the violence. Now, I know most people don't understand this, and so there's a little bit of grace we have to give to all of us, that we know not what we do, as Jesus told us, but it's still technically violence. And the more you wake up to it, the more you have a responsibility to stop doing it. So yeah, I mean, technically you could vote for someone who is a totally non-violent platform, meaning like a Ron Paul. He was gonna pardon all non-violent offenders on day one and not execute any laws that would initiate aggression against a peaceful non-violent person. And like my friend John Beza, former detective in New York City, says, you know, you always knew you had a victimless crime when, as a police detective, you would write up the report of the crime, and where you put victim, you would write, in his case, he was in New York, so he would write P-O-S-N-Y, or people of the state of New York, and that was the victim. And you always knew that was a bogus crime because there was no actual victim. So where there is no victim, there is no crime. It's only mob violence masquerading as law. So law is always immutable. Law is always unchanging. You can have negotiations and changes when it comes to civil law and contract law, but when it comes to law in terms of enforcing, using force, it's only to protect people from something you would naturally be able to protect yourself from as an individual. Which means if someone's trying to assault you, if someone's trying to defraud you, if someone's trying to steal from you, then yes, you can have a law that would enshrine that as not allowed. Which means if someone's trying to assault a person on the side of the road and you stop them by physically restraining the attacker, you can enshrine that action into a law that says, yes, society should have a place, a timeout, or some type of measure to take people who assault people and place them in a place where they can't keep doing that. That's an appropriate, natural, common sense approach to law. But where it gets into mimetic rivalry and scapegoating is when we think that we have the right to use law to use aggression against people because they say the wrong things, they drink the wrong things, they associate with the wrong people, or they do their business practices, even if we don't like them. See, this is how you know our society is addicted to violence. Because we have this impression that if we don't have a law against it, it means we morally endorse it. Which is another way of saying, our highest prime, support is for violence. Well, if we don't hit someone to get them to stop, that means we like it. What the hell kind of sociopathic way of thinking is that? So we got to change our approach, and yes, it's a great question. Very fundamental question to everything we're doing with A Neighbor's Choice. So thanks for that question, Mike.